There's an overwhelming sense and question of what happened.
There's a secret out there. You know, evil doesn't have a conscience.
Here we are 42 years later, and there's still nothing.
She disappeared without a trace and without an arrest. No body, no crime scene, and years of frustration.
We will all remain 14 years old because that truly was a moment that changed our lives forever.
She was 12 when we moved there. She babysat for us because her brother was 8 years younger. She was a beautiful girl. She looked like she was 16 when she was 12. She was a good girl.
People loved to be around her. She had a beautiful personality that went with her beauty. And funny, oh my gosh, so funny. Her parents had like the family room, the good living room, and they had this stereo. And I remember that was the first time I ever heard Meatloaf. And Deanie and I would listen to that Bat Outta Hell album over and over and over and over.
Growing up in Grand Rapids I have only good memories.
It was a great place to grow up, and a lot of fond memories. It was it had a small town feel with a little bit of a suburban vibe to it.
Nothing tremendous ever happened, really, you know. It was just a regular middle America type town.
It was February 5th, 1981. She called me when she got home. And as girls, you know, you plan to, hey, let's get together. But her mom said, no, Deanie, you're not. You're going to the school with me to see your brother William's wrestling meet. And, you know, as a teenager, Deanie, of course, you know, was like, oh, I gotta go. We got a phone call, and it was Deanie's mom. And she said, Kathy, have you heard from Deanie? And I said, no, Mrs. Peters. The last time I heard from her was before you left for the wrestling match. She said, Kathy, if you hear from Deanie, please call the school. She said, we cannot find her anywhere.
On February 5th, 1981, just before 5 p.m., Deanie was with her mother and Ardeen Herbert at Forest Hill Central Middle School to watch her brother wrestle. They were getting ready to leave.
She asked if she could go to the restroom first, and she walked across the gym floor and never came back.
Mary Peters made a plea just days after Deanie vanished.
I just want you to come home, Deanie. Please.
There are individuals in the Grand Rapids area that know what happened to Deanie Peters.
She disappeared without a trace and without an arrest.
When we first heard about Deanie's disappearance, it was the next morning. But it wasn't a disappearance. We all knew she just probably went back to California to see her dad, or, you know, went somewhere. It wasn't a disappearance until a little bit later on, when it was like, wait a minute, this has been a couple of days.
And it was devastating, just devastating for my family. You know, William was 6 years old at that time. I'm not sure he really knew what was going on. He just, you know, would tell people, well, my sister's lost.
Because of being one of Deanie's friends, when I was at the school, if I had to use the restroom, someone had to go. I was not allowed to be alone.
It was not real.
When I grew up here going to elementary school and riding the buses, I can remember hearing about the disappearance of a young girl at one of the schools. I remember my mom saying to me, don't go to the bathroom alone. Make sure you were with somebody. And at the time, I'm first grade. Okay, Mom, you know, I didn't put a lot of thought into it, but you connect the dots over time. And I think even in 1987, 5 or 6 years after this unfolded, there was still a resonating sense of bewilderment and confusion that I, even as a first or second grader, kind of picked up on. Every couple of years, you'll have a group of students that will go, Mr. Anderson, what do you know about the Deanie Peters case? Do you know anything? And I'll say, all right, come on in. Here's my prep period. Let's figure out a time. And I'll tell them everything I know.
I happened to be working as a news reporter on the date of February 5th, 2011, which was the 30th anniversary. I remember coming home and it just stuck with me. And I started just kind of getting my wheels turning. I'm like, how can we maybe generate some more buzz? Okay, the one thing that really hasn't been done yet for this case is nobody has bothered to leverage social media. I came up with the idea. I went to my news director and I said, I think we should do this. I think WZZM should get behind this page. And it exploded.
I had not heard of the Deanie Peters case until I was assigned in 2008 to the Kent Metro Cold Case team. There was 5 of us that were going to do something for this case that it hadn't had in a long time, and that was a full-time investigation, solely working on trying to get an answer as to what happened to Deanie Peters. 27 years had passed, and with any cold case, when you have a case that old, rumors have been flying. We had to eliminate every single one. When we got our list together, there was over 200 people we needed to interview, and there's 5 of us. As this progressed along, we realized there may not ever be a prosecution because of the uncooperativeness for some of the people that we talked to. They simply were not willing to give up some information that we knew that they had.
You know, there's all sorts of swirling rumors, but the one that it always comes back to is there was some sort of altercation in the parking lot. Somebody in a vehicle may have tried to scare her or alarm her, and an accident happened. And that's where the real mystery happens, is how do, if it were, a few teenagers keep this secret for the rest of their lives for 40 years?
And Bruce Bunch is a name that has been kicked around in this case ever since the original investigative team
Had spoken to 20 to 30 of his fellow classmates and friends at various parties and things through the 80s and 90s about being somehow involved.
So we needed to find Bruce Bunch, and we needed to talk to him and eliminate these rumors or tell us why you had said these things. And unfortunately for us, the same month we went to visit Bruce Bunch is the time that he died.
Bunch was 17 and living in Lowell when Deanie disappeared. Bunch was 44 when he died of a heart attack in southern Kentucky in February 2008.
People can talk, but that's all they can do is talk. There's nothing to be proven. Oh, we don't know who it is, so let's put the blame on some dead guy.
A lot of other people in connection to the case have all unfortunately passed away as well. We're running out of people who know the truth. I guess the hope at this point is that somebody grows a conscience.
But that's the interesting thing about the Deanie Peters case. It'll be cold case, and all of a sudden something will come up.
But this morning there's a break in the case.
For the first time since Peters disappeared, there's been an arrest in the case.
Kent County prosecutor says 61-year-old James Frisbee was arrested earlier this month in connection with Peters' disappearance and is being charged with perjury along with resisting and obstructing police.
Frisbee was arrested on July 2nd outside of his sign shop in Alto. Court documents say Frisbee made false statements while under oath, has been charged with perjury and resisting arrest.
My brother and I were coming back from Belding, and a friend of mine called and said, Kathy, did you hear that Jim Frisbee was arrested? And I said, huh?
The Facebook page caught fire again last summer because now suddenly there's an arrest in this case, and there had never been one before. And people who were connected and cared about this case were like, my gosh, we are closer than we've ever been. And nothing. Silence.
Were my kids raised with a lot of protection around them? You betcha. My grandchildren? You betcha. My granddaughter's 13 years old. That scares the hell out of me.
Even my daughter came home from the middle school and she had been told by a group of girls her age, hey, don't go to the bathroom alone.
You hope to God nobody ever has to go through that. And you hope to God it doesn't ever happen to your own kids, but it happened. People in Grand Rapids continue to talk about Deanie Peters because it doesn't happen here. It never happened here. It was not anything that anybody could fathom, imagine, believe. It was unbelievable.
It's something that's been here and always will be until there's some finality to it.
A lot of people poured a lot of their heart and soul into trying to find that girl, and they got nothing. And I think here we are 42 years later, and there's still nothing.
And Deanie truly, truly deserves to be remembered because she touched a lot of lives in 14 short years.
And at some point in time, are we all going to lose interest on this? We're going to have so many generations behind us, and the truth is going to be buried with someone.
I'm just saying, I don't have 42 years left of my life to find her. When you lose a child, that's your future. I don't care if somebody comes forward and says they did it. All I want to know is, where is she? I want to bring her home. I want to bring her back to me.
We will all remain 14 years old because that truly was a moment that changed our lives forever.
So if you could speak to the people who might know something about the case, what would you say to them?
If you're the person that took Deanie, or if you have knowledge of her disappearance, I think 40 years is long enough. And I think her family has suffered long enough. So if you have a micrometer of a conscience, maybe you could write a letter, send a smoke signal, call Silent Observer, and let them know where her remains would be. Bring this family peace. It's been long enough. Thank you.